Viewer discretion is strongly advised. The following is for educational and entertainment purposes only. What you're about to hear is the verbatim federal courtroom testimony from the Sean Diddy Combs trial, as reported by Inner City Press. Day 3 of the trial was already attracting intense media coverage, but nothing could prepare the courtroom for what came next. In a shocking twist, the prosecution introduced a never-before-heard audio recording made by Prince just weeks before his passing. His voice, steady yet filled with an eerie weight, reverberated through the courtroom as he named names, spoke of secret gatherings, and described disturbing events he claimed to have witnessed behind Diddy's closed doors. The room fell into stunned silence, but it was Diddy's explosive reaction that sent shockwaves through the trial. His polished image shattered as he lashed out in an outburst so intense, the judge had to threaten him with contempt. This wasn't gossip. This wasn't social media noise. This was sworn testimony. And from that moment on, the tone of the trial changed forever. Prince's secret recording may prove to be the testimony that brings it all crashing down. Day 3 started like the ones before it, but something was different. There was a tension in the air that hadn't been there before, sharper, heavier. Legal teams moved with brisk precision, their whispers hushed and urgent. Reporters rushed to claim their seats, shoulders tight, eyes darting. Even court staff could be overheard murmuring, "Today is going to be bad for someone." No one knew just how right they were. Diddy entered the courtroom as he had each morning, sharp in a navy-tailored suit, that familiar smirk flickering at the corners of his mouth. He gave a casual nod to the gallery, calm, almost untouched by the weight in the room. His legal team looked composed, quietly exchanging words and documents, eyes forward. Everything appeared routine, until it wasn't. Near the prosecution's table, a quiet disruption. 2 tech specialists rolled in equipment no one had seen before. A sleek black audio device, a laptop, coiled wires. One gave a subtle nod to the lead prosecutor. She didn't return it. Her eyes stayed fixed on the table, carefully avoiding Diddy's gaze. He didn't notice. If anything, he seemed more relaxed than ever. Confident. But for those watching closely, the shift was undeniable. Something was about to happen. Then the judge entered, his voice calm, but his words razor-sharp. "Today's evidence may provoke strong reactions. I expect full composure from everyone." His eyes locked on Diddy, and no one missed it. Then came the moment. The prosecution stood and formally requested to present what they called critical new audio evidence. The defense jolted to attention, and just like that, the entire courtroom changed. This wasn't just another day in trial, it was the moment everything turned. The defense erupted. Objecting fiercely, they argued they hadn't been notified of any new exhibits. A wave of murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Diddy's lead attorney stood, demanding the evidence be excluded, accusing the prosecution of sandbagging and blindsiding the defense. But the judge had already reviewed the paperwork. The evidence had been disclosed, properly and legally. His ruling came swiftly, landing like a gavel strike. The evidence may be played. Then came the moment that changed everything. The prosecutor stepped forward and spoke the words that hit the room like a lightning strike. "You are about to hear the final private recording made by Prince Rogers Nelson." The courtroom froze. Phones dropped to laps. Journalists' fingers hovered, paralyzed above their keyboards. Even Diddy looked caught off guard. His eyes widened slightly as he turned to his lawyers, silently asking, "What is this?" Then the prosecutor connected the device and pressed play. The voice that filled the courtroom wasn't the bold, flamboyant Prince the world remembered. It was quieter, lower, laced with unease. "I'm making this recording because I don't know who I can trust anymore," Prince began. A chill swept through the room. This wasn't a performance. It was a confession. On the recording, Prince detailed his experiences at private parties hosted by Diddy in Miami, the Hamptons, and Los Angeles. He spoke plainly, even grimly, about what he had witnessed. Young artists separated from their teams, encouraged to drink, to take pills. Private rooms with locked doors. Cameras hidden in walls and light fixtures. No security allowed inside. It was the exact pattern Cassie Ventura had described during her first 2 days on the stand. But this wasn't vague. Prince named names. He gave dates, including one specific party in December 2015 in Beverly Hills. And the behaviors he described echoed previous witness testimony, almost word for word. What set this recording apart What made the courtroom shift from disbelief to quiet alarm was the clarity of intent. Prince knew exactly what he was doing. "If something happens to me," he said, "this recording needs to go to the press or the police. Either one." As his voice continued to play, Diddy's demeanor changed completely. His eyes narrowed, his jaw tightened. He stopped whispering to his attorneys. He leaned forward in his seat, hunched slightly, his face noticeably pale. Jurors began shifting their gaze from the speakers to Diddy, watching him just as intently as they listened to the tape. Then Prince said the words that shattered the silence. "These aren't just parties. They're..." The silence that followed was so complete, you could hear Prince's breathing between words. In the back row, a woman quietly wept. In the front, a reporter dropped her pen. Diddy's attorney reached out, placing a hand on his client's arm in an attempt to calm him. But Diddy pulled away. Prince continued, his voice steady but heavy with accusation. He explained that he had warned Diddy about what he saw, that during an after-party in 2016, he had confronted him, demanding the manipulation of young artists and guests stop. Prince claimed Diddy had laughed and replied coldly, "You might be Prince, but you're not untouchable." That line hit the courtroom like a gunshot. Diddy's lips moved as he whispered something to his legal team. One attorney grabbed a yellow legal pad and began writing furiously. Another glanced toward the judge, seemingly waiting for permission to object. But there was nothing to object to. The damage was happening in real time. Just as the courtroom reached its breaking point, Prince's calm yet damning narrative pressed on with relentless detail. The tape moved on to another party from March 2016, involving multiple celebrities and a disturbing incident upstairs. As Prince named the address, a location already tied to the prosecution's forensic timeline, Diddy snapped. "That's a lie!" he shouted, standing abruptly. His voice echoed off the courtroom walls, startling even the bailiffs. The reaction was immediate. Security rushed forward. His lawyers scrambled to pull him back into his seat. One attorney hissed, "Sit down!" But Diddy's voice rose again, louder and more desperate. "He wasn't even there. That never happened." The judge slammed his gavel down repeatedly. "Mr. Combs, control yourself, or I will hold you in contempt." The courtroom descended into chaos. Jurors exchanged stunned glances. Two looked visibly shaken. A court sketch artist later told reporters she had to erase and redraw Diddy's face 3 times. His expression shifted so violently during the outburst. The judge finally restored order and instructed the prosecution to pause the tape. Diddy's breathing was labored, his hands trembling on the defense table. The image of the unshakable billionaire mogul, the calm, untouchable icon, was gone. In its place sat a man, visibly panicked, cornered, and crumbling before the jury. For the prosecution, this was no accident. Court insiders later confirmed what many had suspected. The timing of the tape had been deliberate. After days of slow buildup, small testimonies, and methodical cross-examinations, they had chosen day 3, when they believed Diddy's guard would finally drop. And it worked. He showed the cracks. The jury had seen everything they needed. Rage, guilt, loss of control, all without a single question from the defense. And Prince's voice hadn't even finished. After a brief recess to restore order, the judge ordered the prosecution to resume the playback of Prince's recording. But by then, the atmosphere had shifted completely. No whispers, no typing. Even the court sketch artist had stopped drawing. Every eye was locked on the courtroom speakers. The voice of a man long gone now held command over the most powerful room in entertainment law. Prince's voice picked up where it left off, describing what he called an organized system of manipulation he'd witnessed firsthand. He spoke deliberately, choosing each word like a man who knew his testimony might never be heard again, unless the worst happened. "What I've seen, it's not something you just forget," he said. "They make it seem glamorous, but I've watched it ruin people." He recounted parties at Diddy's private residences, not vague memories, but precise details. Room layouts, guest names, even the color of furniture in certain lounges. Every detail matched previous testimonies from Cassie Ventura and 2 unnamed witnesses. Most chilling were Prince's references to NDAS and hush payments. "I've seen the contracts," he said. "I've seen the money change hands. $2 million here, $1.5 million there. And I've seen what happens to people who try to leave. They disappear. Not physically, but musically, socially, They vanish. Diddy remained seated, visibly shaking, staring straight ahead with a blank, unblinking expression that lasted nearly a full minute. According to a court reporter behind him, one of his lawyers quietly passed him a folded tissue. But Diddy didn't take it. Then Prince dropped another bomb. "I warned him at the Grammy after party," he said, naming Diddy directly. "I told him flat out, this is going to catch up to you." Diddy's voice echoed in the recording. "You might be Prince, but I own this game. People like you don't change it. They get erased." That line reverberated through the courtroom like thunder. Diddy gave no outward reaction, but his jaw clenched tightly. A juror in the front row shook her head in disbelief. Another leaned back, stunned. This wasn't just evidence anymore. It was a surgical character assassination from beyond the grave. Prince, with no motive to lie, no stake in the trial, and no possibility of cross-examination, was painting Diddy not as a flawed man, but as a calculating predator wielding an empire built on silence and control. And the prosecution wasn't done. If you've ever witnessed a trial collapse in real time, this was it. The prosecution had spent 4 days building a slow-burning fire through Cassie Ventura's testimony, weaving together years of abuse, manipulation, and secrets. Now, Prince's voice was pouring gasoline over it all. He spoke of his own fears. "I didn't speak out during my life," he said, "because I saw what happened to those who did. I watched them lose contracts, get dropped from tours, shut out of award shows. It's not just about power, it's about fear. Fear keeps everyone quiet." Prince described a chilling moment at one of Diddy's events when he noticed surveillance. "I saw cameras in the chandelier," he said. "I mentioned it to a producer who just shrugged and said, 'That's just how it is.'" The implication was clear: blackmail and control through secrets, not just money. It echoed long-standing rumors of footage Diddy allegedly kept as leverage, stories whispered but never confirmed. Until now, Prince didn't speculate, he documented. "I've got files," he said. "Hard drives, tapes, photographs, all dated, all organized. I gave copies to 3 people. If anything happens to me, check with them." This was no longer just a recording. It was a whistleblower's blueprint, the smoking gun explaining why Diddy had lost control earlier that day. He likely knew what else might be out there. He likely recognized details only someone inside his inner circle could know. The precision of the tape, perfectly aligned with the prosecution's timeline, was undeniable. As the recording neared its end, Prince said something that would haunt the trial forever. "I've spent my life trying to protect my music, but now I realize it's the people who needed protection. One was doing it. Not really, not when it mattered." The recording clicked off, plunging the courtroom into a heavy silence. Everyone remained frozen. Then the prosecutor calmly said, "No further questions, Your Honor." There was no need for anything more. Prince had done the heavy lifting, speaking from beyond the grave. As soon as court adjourned for the day, Diddy's team moved swiftly. They filed an emergency motion to suppress the Prince recording, arguing the audio's origin couldn't be independently verified, the witness was deceased and unavailable for cross-examination, and the tape was prejudicial. But deep down, they knew it was too late. The jury had already heard the recording. Worse, they had seen Diddy lose control. Legal analysts gathered outside the courthouse were quick to weigh in. "You don't recover from something like that," said one expert. The jury just saw the defendant unravel while hearing the voice of one of the most respected artists of all time. Back inside the courtroom, reporters noticed Diddy barely spoke after the tape ended. He leaned forward on the defense table, elbows digging into the wood, eyes fixed on the floor. His lawyer tried to reach him. Diddy nodded but remained silent, looking smaller, fragile, as if the weight of the world had finally caught up to him. But perhaps the most damning moment came not from Diddy, but from the jury box. As the judge dismissed the jury for the evening, 3 jurors lingered, casting lingering glances back at Diddy. One slowly shook their head, another appeared visibly shaken. No transcript was needed to understand what was unfolding in their minds. They had just witnessed something that would stay with them forever. Prince hadn't just damaged Diddy's defense, he had altered the entire course of the trial. And the most terrifying part for Diddy? Prince had warned there was more to come, As silence hung over the courtroom following the final notes of the recording, the full weight of Prince's message settled like a thick fog over everyone present. It wasn't just what he said, it was how he said it. Deliberate, measured, undeniable. Prince's voice was mournful and deliberate, calm, yet heavy with fear, frustration, and a sense of finality. The last words he spoke before the recording cut off echoed like a chilling plea. If anything happens to me, make sure this gets to the right people. This isn't just about protecting myself. It's about protecting those who never got to speak. No music followed, no signature falsetto, just silence. When the audio ended, it felt as if the air had been sucked out of the room. There were no claps, no whispers. Even the gavel stayed silent for several long seconds. The judge lowered his gaze to his notes, glanced toward the jury, and took a slow, steadying breath before continuing. Everyone in the courtroom understood. This wasn't merely a legal maneuver, it was a cultural earthquake. The judge offered a calm but firm reminder: you are not to consider the source's death as evidence of truth or guilt. Evaluate the content in context with the full record. Yet anyone watching could read it plainly on the jurors' faces. They weren't just processing testimony, they were feeling it. Diddy sat motionless, almost ghost-like, his hands still, his expression blank. For the first time during the trial, the billionaire mogul's facade cracked. He looked less like a titan of industry and more like a man confronting the real possibility of collapse. Though court was adjourned for the day, no one truly left. People drifted out stunned, like survivors of an event they couldn't yet comprehend. Outside, reporters scrambled for words. Unprecedented, game-changer, career-ending. Legal pundits on streaming panels already speculated how one piece of audio might tip the scales of the entire case. But the most profound shift had already taken place. Not in the courtroom, but in the story itself. Diddy was no longer just a man on trial. He had become a man, named by someone the world loved, trusted, and mourned. And that trust, unlike testimony, could not be cross-examined. Jurors are instructed to judge only what's presented, to set aside emotion and focus on facts. But no human can unhear a dead legend naming names, describing crimes, pleading to be heard. And no juror could unsee the unraveling of Diddy's carefully constructed mask once that recording played. What the jury witnessed on day 3 was a psychological unraveling in real time. A man who had dominated his industry for decades, visibly breaking down before their eyes. They saw his body jerk upright the moment Prince named a specific party and date. They heard him mutter under his breath, watched sweat bead on his forehead, and then witnessed his explosive outburst as he shouted across the courtroom that Prince was lying, only to be silenced by the judge's stern warning of contempt. But the most devastating moment wasn't his outburst, it was the silence that followed. Diddy didn't recover, emotionally, physically, or legally. For the remainder of the day, he sat with slumped shoulders, occasionally burying his face in his hands. Meanwhile, the jury, once only mildly attentive, now leaned forward, hanging on every move. Their focus shifted away from the lawyers and zeroed in on him. This kind of shift is every prosecutor's dream, but rarely achieved. Presenting strong evidence is one thing, creating a moment of transformation is another entirely. This was that moment, a pivot where jurors moved from neutral observers to fully engaged believers. Psychologists call it anchor bias, when a powerful event becomes the lens through which all subsequent information is filtered. From this point forward, every piece of defense testimony would be seen through the prism of Prince's voice, and Diddy's raw, exposed reaction. One juror was even seen wiping tears away as the recording ended. Another clasped his hands together, looking more like he was praying than holding composure. Whatever narrative the defense hoped to build was drowned out by a voice that could not be cross-examined, and a defendant who had finally stopped pretending. The day after Prince's recording aired, the courtroom returned to routine. But nothing felt the same. Even before testimony resumed, rumors swirled that more recordings might exist. Prince's vault, the legendary cache rumored to hold hundreds of unreleased tracks, was now believed to possibly contain explosive evidence beyond music. A source close to the prosecution, speaking off the record, confirmed bluntly, "We believe Prince was documenting something far bigger. This may not be the only thing he left behind." The mere possibility sent shockwaves through the entertainment world. Who else could be named? What other secrets lay hidden? How deep did Prince's concerns really go? This trial had evolved. It was no longer just Cassie Ventura's lawsuit or a case about NDAs, freakouts, and past abuses. It had become a referendum on the entire culture Diddy helped build, and thanks to Prince's voice, that culture now had a powerful voice of resistance. Investigators reportedly are seeking additional subpoenas connected to Prince's estate, searching for hard drives, tapes, and notes he may have left behind. If authenticated, these materials could open new investigations, bring fresh charges, or implicate other influential figures once deemed untouchable. Meanwhile, Diddy's legal team scrambled to contain the fallout. They filed motions to exclude the Prince recording, arguing it was emotionally prejudicial. But with the judge already ruling it admissible, and even if it were excluded later, the damage was irrevocable. The public had heard it, the jury had heard it, and Diddy had heard it, and visibly cracked. Now, as the trial moves forward, the question on everyone's mind is clear. What else is hidden in Prince's vault? And more importantly, who will it expose next? Because if Day 3 was the moment this case cracked wide open, what comes next could very well shake the entire industry to its core.